2. We have a quorum present. We have Lynn O'Shea and Christina Turner. How do I pronounce your last name?
It's actually Bolter. That's my maiden name.
Okay, and Bill Swallow's present. We've got Josh Ray attending remotely online. And with that being said, we can distribute the meeting minutes in the future. I more want to focus on the elements of these 2 projects I've been working on today. So with that being said, Josh, I didn't print off the meeting agenda. Is it in any particular order? Who's up first?
Yeah, I can pull it up real quick.
Blocks is, oh, you do have agenda. Thank you. We have it here, Josh. It's Block Supermarket is first up. Thank you. And then it's Rose Garden, of course. Okay, that's the agenda.
And I do have all those documents. If you want me to share anything on the screen for you guys to see, or if you've got it in person, that's fine, whatever you want.
Thank you. Jay pulled off copies of the respective applicants and the proposals. So we're going to do blocks first. You both have a copy of this? Excuse me. The checklist on the application, I wouldn't pay much attention to that because it references brick cleaning and some other specific things. But I think the proposal is the most accurate. I've spoken today with Jeff Zopfi from Height Construction, and I've also spoke to both Sam and Jay at the supermarket just to make sure I have a clear understanding of what they're doing. This really helps. You did this at the time you did the application as well.
Yes.
The image is what I'm referring to, the digital image of the work that they're proposing. And it's accurate. What you currently see on the front of the building is call it a faux stone overlay. And that currently is where the masonry is at. They're going to do what's called a masonry overlay. They're not going to remove the existing brick. They're able to adhere it in a fashion that it doesn't come off. And it's pretty much exactly where the brick is at today. It's going to be of a different material. It's going to be a cultured faux stone is what I was told. And it's going to have a limestone cap. Currently, it does have a cap, but they're going to go right over the existing walls and columns. The cost for that is about $12,975. The other aspect of the project is the pressure washing and painting. They're going to pressure wash and prep all the, call it sheet metal or the metal siding, and give it 2 coats of paint on just 2 elevations. This is the south side. Yes, this is the south side facing Jefferson, and this is the east side facing Maple. These are the 2 sides that they're going to paint. The painting estimate includes the painting of the awning that overhangs. They're not modifying the awning in any way other than painting it along with the siding and replacing the gutter that runs along the east overhang. It has collision marks in 3 different spots where it's been crushed. The east side is fine. The south side is destroyed. So they're going to replace it from the corner all the way down to the other end. Not to mention there's multiple joints and it leaks and drips on patrons when you walk underneath it. So they're going to replace that continuous gutter, repaint this awning on the underside where you see it, and then the 2 sides of the siding, the sheet metal siding. And the last part is the gutter replacement is $2,120. This is pretty straightforward in terms of the proposal. And the only other part that's on here is the painting of the underside of the awning. So when you walk in or out the front door and look up, the sheet metal soffit that you see will be painted in the same color. Right now it's a little discolored and got some rust stains on it and things. Do you ladies have any questions as it pertains to the bid or the scope of the work?
It's pretty straightforward.
I
forget, where do they put their trash?
I think they have 2 dumpsters in the alley along the
Is that
west
where we
side.
see 3 there? 2 of them are theirs?
I think there's 2 back there. If not, there's definitely 1. But I think it's along the side of the building. What do you think? Unless it's back here by the loading dock. Now you got me thinking. Josh, you don't happen to recall where the garbage dumpsters are for blocks, do you?
No, I don't, but I might be able to pull something up on the GIS map here.
The
This
photos,
Rose Garden photo thing has 3 huge dumpsters plus the 2 garbage cans.
So the 2
one-
garbage cans are the renters and then the dumpsters is all the rest.
All 3 of these are Rose Garden, you think? Okay, so then they must have it on the far side here.
Yeah.
I agree with Jeannie. I think we should cover up the dumpsters.
Yeah.
So to me, it looks like in the northwest corner, there's a little box-shaped cutout of the building that there might be dumpsters there, or a dumpster there.
I took photos today of the outside of the building and you know what? That captures it. Yeah, it's right along the side of the building. It's way down the alleyway. You gotta look. Yeah, I took a photo today, but I didn't realize it, Josh. Yeah, it's on the, as you said, but it's not in a niche. That cutout is for the, what do you call it, incinerator? They used to burn all their boxes in that thing.
Gotcha.
But the dumpster is in the shadow of the building. It's right there. There's a concrete landing that comes out and the dumpster's sitting next to it.
Okay.
So, the enclosure, it's visible, but not visible from East or Maple or from Jefferson, but, it is in the alley and visible. So, as we review these projects, we're expected to evaluate them on the impact of the, remodeling or the changes or the upgrade or the improvement.
I like the look. It looks much better.
I think so too.
Yeah.
The current masonry, this pillar has been knocked out and replaced and it's been hit again. It's gouged. That's not to say they don't put the new masonry in and it gets damaged next week. Anything can happen. But the brick is yellow and of high texture. It's like a brick unit that they used a lot of in the 60s. It's real coarse and rough. So is it dated? Some people might say that. The stone look you've seen in a couple different buildings in the downtown, the old doctor's office that Ambrose Seiler bought. I'm trying to think, do you have stone on yours too, or is it all brick? It all goes down to the brick ledge and sits on the ledge.
Yeah.
Um,
Zoffy's, the place next door.
the house, yep,
Got it.
yep, that's got the masonry or the stone on it.
Mhm.
That's real stone though on the front of that. It's not cultured faux stone. This is proposed for cultured faux stone, which is man-made precast concrete and it's colored. So
Maybe we could suggest that he not have a parking space right there so he doesn't knock down the post we pay for.
Yeah. I don't know if it's patrons or a parking spot, but it's actually struck on this side. I would have expected to be struck on the parking side where you could park right here.
That isn't where it's struck?
It's
Someone
impacted
backing
right
up.
on the front,
Oh,
like gouged it.
Oh, geez.
It's damaged again. In fact, it split the base on it. So I was looking at that today, but,
Delivery trucks, man.
yeah, and you wouldn't believe this awning. I took a look at it. I couldn't believe how damaged it was. The gutter, I should say, not the awning. But other than that, how do you folks feel about, the proposal and the impact it would have on the front of the building? Any comments?
Would they keep the sign the same and are they proposing to?
There was no discussion on any change in the signage. Let me look at the photo. It just says Black Supermarket. I'll show you a picture of the front. Well, it's partly cut off, but no, you can see it. Does this thing turn sideways or no? I'm not a phone guy, but that's what the front currently looks like. They have illuminated sign for the Certisaver, the supplier, and then there's like a brown wood sign that's been up there. I don't know if they intended on changing the color of it or doing anything with the signage. There was really no mention of that in the proposal, and I didn't ask them otherwise, but.
Yeah.
Typically, I would assume they're gonna take it down and paint or mask it and paint around it. Typically, that's what folks do. So if there's no issue with the signing and it's in acceptable shape, I'm guessing they would just work around it, but I can meet with them and get more details on that. Because I have to present to the Business Development Committee on Wednesday, and then I can do that. I can ask them about signage if there's any change.
I'm glad to hear they're going to fix the asphalt.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty good. And they're assuming that on their own, that's significant. The amount of improvement they put into the inside of the building in just coolers alone,
Right,
amazing. Gives me the impression they're here to stay.
right.
And for Hampshire's downtown, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So the fact now within a year, year and a half, 2 years, they're gonna, the outlay to dig out, excavate all that asphalt, repave that entire parking lot, it's a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I calculated 75% would be on the agenda there.
Yes.
yes, right there.
You were-
20,000 or something. 20,000, 321, 25. That
Okay.
seems worth it to me. I mean, they put a lot of effort in, they put more in.
I thought so too. I don't disagree with you, but,
We don't have a lot of money to give out though.
and that's one thing I'm glad you brought that up early on, how I think we should approach the applicants that we hear tonight. Let's just approach them and evaluate them based on the impact of the project, the dollar amount of the proposal, and let the village board decide later where they want to spend their money. We're here to hear the projects and give candid feedback and suggestions. Let's do just that and go about our normal business with a recommendation of a percentage that you're comfortable with based on the impact it's gonna have. And just let the chips fall as they may. That's not up to us.
Right.
We're not in the budgeting process, but I agree, but let's leave that up to them, I think.
You had mentioned something earlier, Bill, about maybe breaking the projects into phases and only apply for a portion, maybe this much in 6 months and this much in another 6 months, unless they're planning to do everything all at once, I don't know. But that'd be another way to maybe help
Yeah,
get some work done if you don't have enough money to do it.
yeah.
Right.
I think in the future, for future fiscal budget cycles, that's definitely something we could always mention to the candidate, the applicant. And there's one that's still in the works that may be yet forthcoming this year, I don't know, but that was a suggestion I made to them as well, that you could do things piecemeal. There's nothing to prevent you from coming back for a different portion, a different aspect of the project. And I thought they understood that, but they haven't come with an application, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
other than that, I'll entertain a motion if someone's comfortable making a motion
Yeah.
regarding this proposal for Block's Supermarket.
And we would say 75% if there's one.
If that's
Which
what
is
you're,
roughly $2,321.25.
is that a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second? Okay. We can all vote, everyone in favor? Aye. Opposed, that's it. So motion carries at 75%. And what was that dollar amount, Lynn, that would work out to?
20,321.25. That's based on the 27.95
Okay,
total.
perfect. Okay, any further discussion on blocks before we move on to the next project?
It's exciting.
Mhm. Just see. You know, so, yeah.
The Rose Garden. So who did the rendering? Was it,
I'm not sure, but I think the son may have had an active part in that.
okay.
It's either him or Incredible Builders. Do you both have a copy of the facade for Rose Garden? Okay, let me go through it real briefly for you. The application is at the top. If you can scroll through the app, and the first proposal I'm looking at is something from Simon Masonry in the amount of $75,000. Okay. The next proposal is for the parapet wall restoration from the same company, Simon Masonry, in the amount of $9,100. Okay, and I'll come back to these. I just want to make sure you've all got everything I've got. Next is an Incredible Builders proposal. Page 2 has the total on it, and that total is $132,000 and some change. Okay, and then lastly is the artistic rendition. And then the next page is a photograph of the rear of the building. And the rest is taxpayer W9, W9. Okay, so you both have copies of what I just read. Okay. I'm gonna bounce forward to the Incredible Builders, because that's the order they came in, and I wanna touch bases on that, explain to you.
Differences are.
Yeah, and how it came about. This is a two-page proposal. This is a revised proposal. It's the second proposal. The first one, I think, was drafted April 21st, and that's when I contacted Incredible Builders to go over and talk to them, because the bid they had submitted and the rendering did not match. What I'm referring to is the side of the building shows brickwork up to about the midway point, and it shows faux stone going up on columns in the building. The proposal they had submitted had none of that. It had a faux stone going up about 3 foot or so, maybe it's 4 foot, 3 or 4 feet off the sidewalk. And above that, the original proposal had siding, vinyl siding on the side of the building. And I went over to talk to him about that, and the fact that there's multiple products or materials on the outside of the building to begin with. The brickwork was done at different eras, so there's different materials used, and what they did to kind of unify everything is they applied a stucco and painted it previously. So the existing masonry is something to be desired. That's why they probably covered it over, not to mention we have the loss of the front parapet wall that was there previously. It was removed when they remodeled the building previously because it was in such bad shape, it was gonna fall in the street. So we have existing masonry up here that was falling apart and just kind of capped off. We have deteriorating masonry on the front corner, which would be on the south east corner of the intersection, right there at the corner. That's all needs to be worked. And I think that's part of what's driving the replacement up 3 to 4 feet along the whole bottom of the building. But they're gonna do that from the corner all the way down to the alley, is my understanding, that application of this cultured stone. But the Incredible Builders estimate did not include any rework of the existing stucco, which is what you see up here right now. That I think this was written for vinyl siding, and they had vinyl siding on the side of the building. And my question was this, the solution and the estimate or invoice as proposed is introducing a new material that's currently not on the building. It's currently masonry covered with stucco. Granted, the masonry is in poor shape, but I'm not sure the introduction of a third material is going to solve the solution. And they were very receptive, the Incredible Builders. And the gentleman said, I'll go back to Dan, I'll get a revised proposal. So the new proposal that you see has been reworked, and that's what you're looking at, to the tune of, what did I say, 130, whatever the total was. On multiple occasions, I've asked Dan about the proposal and the revised proposal that he got from Incredible Builders. And my question was just as simple as this. Do you intend to use them, or are you comfortable with the proposal? And basically he said, I'll use whoever you want. I said, no, you don't understand. This isn't up to the village or me or anybody else. This is up to you. You own the building. The question again is, do you intend to use Incredible Builders? He says, I think so. I'm not really sure. And I said, what's your reservation? And he says, the fact that they don't do stucco repair or work in any way. They just don't do that. And I said, okay, so what do you want to do? I want to find someone that wants to work with stucco. And that's when he mentioned, I think he had some prior work done on another restaurant down in central Illinois somewhere. And he says, that's the guy I'm going to call. And I said, what does that involve? He says he has to make the trip up here to give me a proposal, inspect the building. I go, that makes sense. And he finally made it happen. That's the proposal that I got last Friday. So
Simon Masonry.
Yes.
Mr.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's really a lot to discuss about the proposal from Incredible Builders. It did include the rebuilding of the parapet wall, which has been a discussion.
So,
The parapet wall that was missing, the original proposals from Incredible Builders did not include that. And when I got the proposal from the new contractor, it did not include that either. And I said, Dan, please consider doing something with that front parapet wall in some way to unify or do something. And originally they were just going to make it the same height and continue the decorative crown that's at the top and copy it or replicate it. So it ran across. I said, that's better than nothing. So,
I can't remember that being there. I guess I never looked up. I was there when Bell Drug was there, or?
yes,
Okay.
yes, it was. And it was in horrible shape. And I think the vent may have even fallen out of it before they took it off. But it is, in my conversation with them today, at a minimum, they're gonna rebuild this parapet, and that's what the separate invoice is for, $9,100. And they're working on this. That's restoring what was there. That's exactly what was there. So to be determined on cost and everything else, but that's what ideally we'd like to do. And he expressed that to the masonry folks. So that's kind of where we're at. And I encourage them to propose it separately because it's so much more, in my opinion, of a restorative process in comparison to what else they're doing on the building. So it's anyway, up for your consideration.
What is he planning to do inside? I'm just curious. Has he talked to you about that, or?
I guess he is vetting potential tenants to open a restaurant again in the building. And gosh, I think it was what, a month ago, Josh? I think he had interviewed three candidates.
No remodeling, as is?
Well, I think he's leaving the remodeling up to the tenant that takes the property on, right, Josh?
I don't know for sure.
In his comments, he had a young couple that was interested in opening up a Mexican restaurant. And they were talking about putting tile inlays in the floor and doing all sorts of work. Now, whether or not that's who moves in there or gets the contract, I don't know. Or
I
gets the
heard
lease.
someone from Burlington. Is that the Mexican restaurant?
I don't know.
The restaurant that's there.
I didn't think it was, because they would have mentioned that, I think. Because I'm familiar with that, and talk about a facelift on that building.
Right.
It's hard to miss when you drive through Burlington, but I don't think it was them, because I think they would have mentioned that. So anyway, as to who he's gonna rent to, I don't know, but let's take a moment and go through this other Simon Masonry proposal. It's the one in the amount of $75,000.
Okay.
The first item is to remove loose coat of mortar on the existing building and apply new mortar. That's where the deterioration is on the front corner by the sidewalk, where you enter, and anywhere else where it's loose, obviously. Now, what they're gonna have to do where they're stucco now and where they're gonna put the masonry veneer is to apply a wire mesh as a foundation to support it. They're gonna use, they wrote on here, blue teen gun. I think she misunderstood. I called him and said, are you talking about Capcom fasteners? And he said, yes. They're designed for masonry. You drill and then run them in, and they're designed for that. And that's what's gonna secure the wire mesh onto the entire wall, 60 feet by 19 feet. That's the entire south elevation facing Jefferson. Then they are going to apply the cultured stone up to about 4 foot high on the wall. And from that point up, the rest of the wall will have what's called a thin brick applied. It's a veneer. It's not true brick. And they're gonna apply a scratch coat for adhering to the wire mesh. And then they're gonna apply the thin brick to the mesh, or to the scratch coat. And then they come back and literally mortar it. So it appears like a masonry, like a full-blown masonry wall, but you wouldn't really know unless you knew it.
Is it cultured, or is it faux cultured? Faux cultured.
I'm guessing full cultured for the 4 foot, but I can ask for further. I also mentioned to both Simon Masonry and Chris Ramadani that we would like to be samples before it's put up. I mean, what happens if they put up purple brick?
Yeah.
Right? I explained to them we'd kind of like to see samples before they're put in, and he didn't have a problem with that. So the full cultured, I think, is for the 4 foot up and then above that. And then my other question was, because he sent me examples of what, I called the contractor and I said, can you send me an example of a building that you've done with this faux brick on it? And he said, yes. And he said, now this is different in that they had us paint it. I'm not suggesting that we paint it. I said, okay. But send me pictures of it, and I want to show you the appearance of the brick, even though it's been painted, what it looks like. About 5 foot up off the sidewalk. Apparently the masonry on this building was in horrible shape. They did a brick veneer overlay and then painted it. And it actually looks smoother and more uniform than the original brick does in this image to me. So, he said it, well, according to the contractor, he said it's gonna look good and it's gonna go all the way up. In his discussion with Dan Ramadani, there's about a foot and a half or 2 foot, call it a soffit, where along the top of the building, it's bumped out by, a little bit. And the contractor is gonna hopefully see if there's a way they can cover that with the same brick, because they were originally gonna paint it. So,
I love,
it's kind of
I
like,
love the brick. I did it at my salon on the inside, so I think it's awesome.
yeah, good.
Yeah, it's really good.
It'll add uniformity to that side of the
Yeah.
building because it's been added on to twice. If you look at the brickwork, it goes back and it used to go like this, and then they added a second part. And then now where the kitchen's at, it goes out even further. And I thought originally that was cinder block. It is brick, but it's of a different, who knows what color, because that's why they painted it, much like they did with Fifth Third. There were so many different colored bricks on the building and different sizes too of brick. They just painted it all for uniformity. So that's kind of where we're at, and that's what we're working with. So I get that, short of, you can imagine the cost of doing the brick. Well, I don't need to talk to you about that.
Yeah, even the panel brick is.
Yeah, it's pretty pricey, but this, I think, based on what we're working with, is a
It's a
decent
good look.
solution. It's a good look. It's gonna add uniformity. It's gonna look like brick. So let's continue on our review through this proposal. So we covered the cultured stone up to 4 foot. The rest of the brick going all the way up is hopefully gonna be the brick veneer. The vinyl siding that he's referring to is on the rear of the building that faces blocks, and it's only the upper second floor. Where currently it's what they call T111, it's just cedar 4x8 sheets of siding that's painted. They're gonna go over that with vinyl, so it's non-maintenance, and I'm assuming in a color that's gonna complement the paintwork below and the brickwork on the side. Below, the first floor level, on the back, facing blocks parking lot, currently is painted masonry. And half of it are bricks and the other half is cinder block. They're gonna pressure wash that and paint it all one uniform color. Part of the reason they're doing that is, one, there's a doorway in it. Number two, they're gonna build a garbage closure in front of it. Why would you put a brick veneer? Yes, thanks to Jeannie and your guys' comments. This proposal includes the garbage can enclosure or the
It
dumpster.
looks terrible when you're going into a grocery store to see all that garbage.
Yeah, so I talked to Mike Reed and he said, absolutely, if there's something the village needs to do to allow or provide access or an easement to have that installed, they will do whatever they can within reasonable means. So you've got the municipality working hand in hand with the building owner. The 2 windows were in the upper back part of the building, and the back door, I think, was downstairs, that's exposed to the elements. They've got a proposal for new gutters. Further down also includes stucco, paint, and garbage enclosures. The stucco, if I'm not mistaken, is on the front of the building from the second floor up above the stone. And then, of course, painting of any of the existing stucco. This proposal also includes the stucco crown molding that caps the parapet wall. So it'll all be uniform all the way across, where currently it is not. Labor, material, and cleanup. The total on this proposal is $75,792. So this application includes 2 separate proposals. One is for the restorative parapet work, the rest is for the remainder of the building. So we can, I would say, probably evaluate them independently and vote on them independently as part of the same application. It's substantially less than the other proposal, and it's substantially different than the Incredible Builders proposal.
Yeah.
Because
I
I think it will look nicer. I'm not real fond of too much vinyl. I mean, once the sun starts hitting it, it starts waving,
Sure.
the Incredible Builders this revised proposal does include masonry. And they were going to install brick panel on the side and upper half of the rear of the building. They proposed a cost for the cultured stone knee wall to be $8 a square foot material. That's just a per square footage allowance. They were gonna paint the front stucco and do the rear block. Well, here's the thing. You just look at the dollar difference between the two, it's significant. And maybe some people might say as much as one that might allow the project to move forward, one that may not, depending upon what the,
Well,
flexibility the village has.
it looks like the awning, alone costs over $12,000. Are they not doing a new awning? Simon,
Yes, let me look.
Yeah.
I thought it did include the drawings, but let me double check. Stucco paint, stucco. This doesn't speak to the awnings, and they're probably gonna have to come off to do it. I know Dan is resigned to the fact that they have to come off. They're, at least they have to be re-covered at a minimum because the condition that they're in, but, that'd be a question for him is what about the
awning.
existing awnings, what are they doing with those?
Does that add 12,000 to the price?
Yeah, they might have forgot about it with the rush of getting it in.
Or maybe they don't do awnings.
Yeah. Too. That's the only.
We don't have an awning company in Hampshire anymore.
Yeah, right, for how many years we did? Since Woodmeyer.
Yeah.
So that will definitely be something I will bring up to, again, is the proposal, the scope of the project. Is mostly inclusive with the exception of the awnings, you're right, because the Incredible Builders does include the awnings.
Maybe they're not gonna do awnings. They could be light fixtures like they did at Coppermill.
I will pose that question. Here's my notes, let me see.
Tiny.
So that is a question I will ask. This, I can speak to this much at least, based on the proposal from the masonry company, it does not spell out the awnings. So my best guess is it doesn't include them, but that's something I will say to them is, what do you intend to do with the awnings? Because you've got them now and, not necessarily that he has to keep them or replace them, but this doesn't include that, so.
Other than the awning, is there a reason why Incredible Builders is so much higher?
I don't
The
know,
labor price is higher?
anything's possible.
Sterling, Dixon, they're just, expensive area.
Masonry work for the parapet walls in the ballpark, he quoted 8075, and the proposal from Simon was what, 9100? So they're
Oh,
within,
they are, okay.
what, $1,000 of one another,
Okay,
roughly, a little less.
Right. so that's not it.
Door windows, I think the bulk of it is the masonry cost. The cultured stone and the masonry veneer alone on the Incredible Builders estimate combined is almost $90,000. The entire proposal from Simon Masonry is 75.
Right.
So from that standpoint, just the masonry alone, Incredible Builders is a lot higher. And I'm all in favor of,
And maybe they have to sub it out. So that's gonna cost them more than
Yep.
someone that does that for them.
right? And my understanding, this company does, they do the work, with the exception of, what did I say? Oh, the parapet wall, the decorative coping, he's gonna sub that out, he told me that, because that we don't do. But otherwise, it sounds like they do everything and he sent me examples of his work that they did before. So,
Cool.
anyway, what other questions might you have? I've made myself a to-do list. I will reach out to him before Wednesday's BDC meeting and ask him to address the awning issue and what he intends to do with that.
Like I said, or put lights up. The more of these we look at, the more I think, gosh, do we have kind of an overall look we'd like to have downtown Hampshire have that we can suggest to people? I know in Florida, the city council decided what they wanted the look of the buildings to be on the exterior, and everyone has to have that same kind of look everywhere. In shopping centers, grocery stores, hardware stores, everything. anything new.
Yeah, sure.
As long as it stays the same, but as soon as there's any renovation, it has to have this look. And I'm thinking, maybe what we want is to preserve the old, but maybe we also want to consider, is there a look we'd really like to have us?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Naperville has it.
Yeah.
It's expensive, but if you're gonna, and the city's gonna pay for it. These are places where the city doesn't pay. The Lowe's has to, everybody has to. have that.
interesting.
It's something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that there's merit to that. Uniformity in a certain theme, not
Yeah.
just everything's gray, but,
Right.
absolutely a certain style. And
Architecture and stuff.
I have to say, since I've perceived since the Copper Barrel went in, that kind of served as kind of a catalyst for a theme, if you want to call it that.
Right, sure. Right.
That since then, the incorporation of the, what do they call, what kind of lights are those that hang?
Gooseneck lighting.
Yes, the gooseneck lighting, you've seen that now with your place, the doctor's office.
Another
It
one.
gives it more of a
Yeah, the wine place too. I think.
planned look, like when you're putting furniture in your house, you might say, well, I like the green, I like the blue, and you have a theme that you're going.
You don't go do a room at a time. You begin with the end of the month, end in mind.
Yes.
I've always been
So
told. So,
something to think about as we.
yeah, that's something I bring up too in terms of design standards. It's come up before.
Especially if there's ever gonna be any new construction.
Mhm.
Sure, we'd love to have it, but this is the architectural design mentioned. And
It's
if
just
you want our money, then.
too
I felt like that was, I felt like that was the theme of what I want as an applicant, it was like, come up with things of the late 1800s or the original of the building, so it's kind of what they're wanting to with the, is it parfait?
the parapet.
Parapet,
Yep.
to just bring things back of what, but it's true though, you want everyone to tie in with something, but I definitely think, now we looked at blocks, they're doing the 3-foot stone. And we got Ambrose, and then we got Zoffies, and now Rose Garden, so everyone's doing the 3-foot stone band there, so that's all gonna tie in,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Consistency and
yeah.
it's not gonna be, something striking where you look at it and go, boy, you don't see that anywhere.
Right. And it's at least nice that everyone's trying to, use that stone and masonry, probably like what we're trying to tie everything to, is to go for it and spend money on that, rather than all of us doing the same color siding or something, so. So I think it's kind of happening on its own a little bit, but you're right, unless we get some application that's just like really more modern and different from the rest, then it would be nice to have something in place to say like, wow.
There's one more.
Yeah, right. But so far, I think we've been lucky that it's all tying in good.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, so the Rose Gardens is definitely a presence on the corner, and so is Block, so they're both, but it's gonna make a big difference.
I think so too. Highly visible. A lot of
Look a
people.
little run down, don't look a lot better.
It's gonna be great.
I agree.
It's
It's
gonna be great.
especially Rose Garden it is what it is in terms of what they have to work with, much like we've been here outside of the Fifth Third. But I think they're doing the best they can with it. And I have to, again, with the level of receptiveness that you greeted me with, I got the same level of receptiveness from Dan Ramadan. Even though, it's been difficult, I guess, to get a hold of him because of distance and where he might live and communication and things like that. He's been very open to encouragement in a certain direction. And that's refreshing because, anyway.
So if we recommended them at both projects, at the Simon Masonry level, that's what they choose. The two together at 75% would be about $63,669, which we don't have.
Well, again, we're not gonna be concerned with that. That's gonna be up to the village board, but I think based on,
How visible they are, they might
Yeah, if it's there's a way to figure it out, we'll leave that up to the village board, but I agree, I think the change, the degree of change and impact that this would have, the parapet wall as well as the rest of the renovations, it would make a significant difference in the building, I think.
Yes.
Because right now, that building, Rose Garden, in my opinion, is in need of some help. And I think this is definitely a viable candidate, a viable project that would really significantly improve the overall appearance of the downtown.
Okay, let's go to the other end.
We'll work on
And she can
it.
get.
One day at a time. Right? Small steps. So if someone would like to, was that a motion, Lynn?
Sure.
Yeah.
I
Second.
recommend that we
Okay,
fund both of the sign and masonry proposals at the 75% level.
Second.
okay.
And
At 75%, and that would result in the dollar amount you said of,
$63,669.
okay, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
they may have to add on awning and light, but
And I have my honeydew to check with him on that, and I will do just that between now and Wednesday to see what he's planning on doing with them. I would assume with the stucco work and the paint work, we're gonna definitely have to take them down at least, because they're tattered as it is now.
right,
Same holds true with the signage. If new signage is going up for a new business, one, I would think if the sign's gonna come down, they would say, fill all the holes. We don't know what kind of sign they're putting up. Let's redo the front of the building and then let them decide awning and, but I don't speak for Dan Ramadani, but that's my guess. I'll ask him about the signage too. Because they have signage on the side and on the
and
back.
will the new person want it called the Rose Garden?
Yeah.
They might want to call it something.
Yeah, I kind of think that's more likely than not. So with that being said, any further discussion about the Rose Garden? I'll check in on those two subjects, those 2 points.
Sounds great. It's exciting.
Yeah, I think so too.
Cool.
The third potential candidate we were possibly gonna have was
Okay.
the Cape, thank you. And we didn't receive anything from them as of yet. I talked to Gina Ruth last week and she had recently had a medical procedure and there were setbacks with that. So she said, I'm out of commission, and I said, I understand, take your time, whatever you're ready. I just didn't want it to slip between the cracks between now and next week, so. Other than that, any further discussion about the two projects we've heard about tonight?
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be awesome.
I think it's gonna be a big improvement.
It's huge.
Thank you again to the two of you for,
Once it's totally beautified,
Of course.
you start working on the street. There's the old section of town.
yeah,
Yeah.
You can't ride your bike without almost falling and you make holes.
yeah, that's a question for our streets committee. So with that being said, I think at this point, if you're okay with it, ladies, we adjourn. It's 8:05.
I gotta get home and eat something, so I'm gonna leave here pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
No, that's fine. That was quick and painless.
Yeah. Well, it's
Adjourn.
nice seeing you guys.
Yes, likewise. Thank you both again.